Mayor Bill de Blasio is meeting with business leaders to develop guidelines for the new vaccine mandate for the private sector, which goes into effect in 3 weeks.
So yesterday's announcement took a lot of people by surprise, left a lot of employers and employees wondering about their rights in the workplace under the new mandate. So we reached out to an employment attorney, Andrew Lieb, to help really clarify some of the confusion about this. So Andrew, good morning to you. Thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So how can this mandate go into effect December 27th when the guidelines for it are actually still in the process of being drawn up and these employees and employers don't know the details?
My favorite thing that de Blasio said is he said, we'll figure out what makes sense by December 15th. How do you announce that you're going to do something and then figure it out later? Now, I will tell you that the way he's going to do this is in the Administrative Procedure Act. There's a law that says, hey, he can say there's an emergency and we could get away with all this 90 days where we have to have comments and we have to do this the smart way if we can say there's an imminent health emergency. But how is he really going to get away with saying that? It seems like kind of a rush job to me.
Yeah, and he hasn't really, well, he has not announced how they're going to enforce this in the first place. So could employers face any kind of penalty, do you think, for not enforcing this mandate with their employees?
Hazel, I can't see a world where an employer doesn't face a penalty. They're probably going to make the employers have to be surrogate police where they're going to have to do this because otherwise they're going to be facing penalties just like if they're operating without a business license. That's how I see this going down. But make no mistake, Hazel, this is going to be challenged in court because just like the OSHA mandate, which was an emergency procedure, when you don't go through the normal administrative process, when we have a regulation from the government, they have to give the public time to comment unless it's an emergency. How now is this an emergency? We're hearing Omicron, but I heard yesterday by Fauci that it doesn't have as severe consequences. Well, so it doesn't sound like an emergency.
Yeah, well, that's still up in the air and it's still being determined because they'd still need to finalize their studies on what exactly Omicron does. And really an emergency, I guess, can be declared because we're still in a pandemic, right? So when you mentioned the court battle, so the other ones were also challenged in court. They were upheld by the courts. How do you see this one going? Is it different because it's a private sector versus public?
And what I think is that ultimately, every vaccine mandate is constitutional. We have to start off with that. And I read on the Facebook, everyone says unconstitutional. But since 1905, the U.S. Supreme Court has said the government can make a vaccine mandate. What I'm getting into is the weeds here of the process in which de Blasio is making it into the law. Generally, if you're going to have a regulation, there's a period that you have to make the regulation in. And they're trying to jump the gun. They said on December 6th, we're going to have this by December 15th. The issue isn't whether they can do a vaccine mandate, which they clearly can based on Jacobson v. Massachusetts, which is that Supreme Court precedent. The question is how they go about doing it, which is how all the other vaccine mandates are being challenged as well.
So are there any legal protections for private sector employees who don't want to get vaccinated?
Hazel, what a great question. It's not about whether you don't want to get vaccinated. We can't just choose what we want to do when there's a mandate. But there is what's called an accommodation available. And this is across the board for anyone in a workplace, whether it's a vaccine requirement or another office policy. If you have a disability or a sincerely held religious belief, you can apply for accommodation. And just so you know, that's exactly what's being litigated right now for the New York City teachers, the 15 teachers in a case called Kane before the Second Circuit. They're saying we should be able to get a sincerely held religious belief accommodation.
So those folks, so you're saying those unvaccinated employees, the steps they should be taking right now is filing the paperwork if they feel that they have some kind of right not to.
100%, Dan. They should be filing their request. And what's interesting about the Second Circuit case in Kane with the teachers is what the de Blasio administration and the arbitrator had said was you had to have a religious leader say that you have a sincerely held religious belief. But the Second Circuit said, oh, no, it's your own belief, your personal belief. So go see an attorney, go file your papers, because if you don't act, you should forever hold your peace. You have to speak up now and say, I have a disability, a sincerely held religious belief.
Well, we shall see how this will all pan out. Andrew Lieb, thanks so much for joining us this morning and for all of your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.